Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do before saying goodbye is not cry, not plead, not explain, but to stand in your worth and walk away with peace. See, when a woman knows her value, when she understands that goodbye doesn't mean she's lost, but that she's choosing herself, that's when a man never forgets her. When you create an emotional connection before saying goodbye, it stays in a man's heart longer than anything you could ever say. The way you leave matters just as much as the way you loved him. Before walking away, the energy you leave behind becomes your legacy in his memory. Most people think goodbyes are about words, but they're not. They're about presence, emotion, and the energy that lingers after you've gone. If you can leave him with peace instead of chaos, calm instead of conflict, love instead of anger, you will live rent-free in his mind long after the last goodbye. A man never forgets how a woman made him feel in her absence. When you can make him feel your love, even when you're not there, that's when you've left a mark that time can't erase. It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about being real, being centered, and being emotionally intelligent enough to know that love doesn't have to end in destruction. Before you say goodbye, take a moment to appreciate what you both had. Acknowledge it in your heart. Gratitude creates peace, and peace is powerful. When you leave with peace, it confuses a man in the best way. He'll expect anger, tears, maybe even blame. But when he sees calm confidence, it shifts something in him. He starts to question what he lost, not because of guilt, but because your energy was rare. That emotional connection doesn't come from chasing or pleading. It comes from grace, the kind of grace that says, I loved you fully and I can let you go gracefully. When a woman can do that, she leaves behind a vibration that no one else can replace. He'll replay your words, your tone, your last look, wondering how you managed to stay composed when he expected you to fall apart. That mystery keeps you alive in his thoughts. The emotional connection before goodbye is not about staying attached. It's about showing the kind of love that doesn't need validation. It's the kind of love that says, even though we're done, I wish you well. That's what separates strong women from the rest. You see, the heart remembers kindness. It remembers softness. It remembers love that didn't end with hate. And when you leave a man with that, he can't shake it. You become a lesson, not just a memory. You become the one who taught him what real love feels like, what respect looks like, and what peace sounds like. The emotional connection before saying goodbye is your final gift. One last act of love that says, you mattered, but so do I. So when it's time to walk away, let your energy speak louder than your words. Don't beg him to remember you. Just leave him with a moment so powerful, so emotionally pure, that forgetting you becomes impossible. Because real connection doesn't end with goodbye. It begins when he realizes he'll never find that feeling again. The power of grace, confidence, and silence when saying goodbye is something most people underestimate. When emotions run high and hearts are breaking, silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. A confident woman doesn't need to prove her pain or explain her worth. She knows that sometimes the most unforgettable statement is made by simply walking away with grace. Grace isn't weakness, it's quiet strength. It's the ability to keep your dignity when everything inside you wants to scream, to cry, to demand answers. But instead, you choose peace. You choose calm. You choose to let your silence be the message he can't ignore. When a man expects anger and instead meets serenity, it shakes him. That silence haunts him more than words ever could. He'll remember your calm, your tone, the way you held yourself together when the moment was heavy. Because confidence in goodbye isn't about pretending not to care. It's about caring enough for yourself to not lose control. It's about knowing that love is real, but self-respect is sacred. When you walk away without bitterness, without shouting, without begging, you rise above the situation. You show that your value was never dependent on his presence, but rooted in your self-worth. Silence gives you power. It makes him reflect. It makes him wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and why you're so composed. That mystery becomes unforgettable. A confident woman doesn't chase closure because she already has it within herself. She doesn't need to prove her pain because her peace is her proof. She leaves with her energy intact, her spirit unbroken, and that's exactly why he'll never forget her. Grace and goodbye is choosing love even when it hurts. It's wishing him well, not because he deserves it, but because you deserve peace. You're not doing it to make him miss you. You're doing it because you respect yourself too much to end things with chaos. And ironically, that's what makes him miss you. He'll remember that you didn't lose your temper, that you didn't try to hurt him back. Instead, you walked away with your head high, leaving behind a silence that speaks of confidence, maturity, and emotional intelligence. Confidence is magnetic. When you leave with it, you don't need to announce your worth. It radiates naturally. He'll think of you when he meets someone who doesn't have that same grace, that same calm energy. Your silence will echo every time he tries to find peace in someone else. Because the truth is, people forget words, but they never forget how you made them feel. And when you leave with confidence, when your silence carries dignity and strength, you leave an impression that time cannot fade. Your goodbye becomes a lesson in power, the kind of power that comes from loving yourself enough to walk away gracefully without a single word. Leaving a man with peace instead of pain keeps you unforgettable, because peace is something rare in the world of heartbreak. Most people end relationships with anger, resentment, and words they later wish they hadn't said. But when you choose peace over pain, you rise above the noise. You show emotional strength that demands respect long after the goodbye. A man might not remember every conversation, but he will always remember the energy you left behind. When you walk away without bitterness, without trying to hurt him the way he hurt you, that's when he starts to realize your true worth. Peace has a power that arguments never will. When you leave him calmly, with understanding in your heart, instead of hatred, It unsettles him in ways you can't imagine. He will replay that moment over and over, wondering how you managed to walk away so gracefully. He'll expect tears, maybe even accusations, but instead he'll see calm eyes and a soft tone. That contrast stays in his mind because it's not what he's used to. Most people react emotionally when they're hurt. But a woman who chooses peace sends a message that she's not controlled by emotion, she's led by wisdom. Leaving with peace doesn't mean you're pretending not to care. It means you care deeply but refuse to let pain turn you into someone bitter. You choose your healing over revenge. You choose your growth over drama. And that choice will always make you unforgettable. He might forget your words, but he will never forget your calm. He'll remember how you didn't fight for attention, how you didn't lower yourself just to be heard. That silence, that self-control becomes the moment he realizes what he lost. When you walk away peacefully, you're showing him that you loved truly, but you love yourself enough to let go. That kind of maturity is rare. It's what separates a temporary connection from a lasting memory. You don't need to win the breakup, you just need to win your peace. When he thinks back, he'll remember that you didn't make a scene, didn't beg him to stay, and didn't turn love into war. Instead, you let go with grace, and that image will stay with him far longer than any angry goodbye could. A peaceful goodbye makes him reflect. It makes him question himself, not out of guilt, but out of admiration. He'll start to wonder how you found that strength, how you were able to forgive, and why your energy still feels so calm even from a distance. That's what makes peace unforgettable. It's quiet but powerful. It's gentle but lasting. And when you leave with peace instead of pain, you don't just end a chapter, you leave a mark on his soul, because no one forgets the person who left love behind, not anger, peace, not chaos, understanding, not revenge, respect and self-worth speak louder than words, especially when love is ending. You can tell someone 1,000 times how much you care, but the moment you choose yourself, your actions become the loudest voice in the room. Respect means knowing when to walk away, even when your heart wants to stay. It's understanding that your peace, your dignity, and your emotional balance are worth more than any relationship that can't value them. When you show a man that you respect yourself, you teach him how to respect you. And that lesson will echo in his mind long after you're gone. Self-worth isn't something you say, it's something you show. It's in the way you don't chase after what's leaving. It's in the way you don't beg to be seen or understood. A woman who knows her value never needs to prove it. She simply stands firm in it, and that quiet confidence becomes unforgettable. When you walk away with your self-respect intact, you're sending a message that your love was a choice, not desperation. And that realization hits a man deeply because he recognizes that you could love him, but you never needed him to define your worth. Respect also means setting boundaries even in goodbye. It's not about bitterness, it's about protecting your energy. When you choose to leave with calm instead of chaos, with closure instead of confusion, You're not just ending a relationship, you're honoring yourself. That kind of strength makes you unforgettable because very few people have it. Most breakups are filled with noise and emotion, but respect creates silence that demands reflection. He'll think about how you handled everything, how you didn't insult him, didn't lose control, and didn't destroy what was once beautiful just because it was ending. That's the power of self-worth. It turns pain into purpose. It transforms heartbreak into growth. And it makes a man remember you not as the woman who begged for love, but as the woman who knew she deserved better. Respect and self-worth never fade. They linger in his memory long after the emotions have passed. He'll forget the words, but he'll never forget the feeling of being loved by someone who loved herself even more. Letting go with love makes him reflect deeply on what he lost, because love handled with maturity becomes unforgettable. Most people think walking away means cutting all emotions, but real strength is being able to release someone with compassion still in your heart. When you let go with love, you're not pretending that what you shared didn't matter. You're simply choosing peace over pain. You're accepting that love can exist even when a relationship can't continue. That kind of release is powerful, and it leaves a mark on a man that no anger or argument ever could. Letting go with love means you've grown beyond the need for control. You no longer need him to feel the same way or understand what you feel. You've learned that love doesn't have to end in hate to be real. And that realization is what makes you stand out. When you choose love, even in goodbye, you teach him something that will stay with him for life. That love isn't about holding on tightly. It's about wishing someone well even as they go their own way. That kind of maturity touches his soul because it's rare, it's selfless, it's real. When you can let go without resentment, it shows emotional depth. It shows that you value the experience more than the outcome. And that mindset changes how he sees you. He starts to reflect on every moment, every conversation, every memory, and he begins to understand what he had in you. He might not have seen it clearly before, but your ability to walk away with love forces him to look deeper. He realizes that your love was pure, not based on ego, not built on fear, but grounded in care and respect. That kind of love doesn't vanish easily. It lingers in the quiet moments of his thoughts, reminding him of what he lost. Letting go with love also means you forgive, not because it excuses his behavior, but because it frees your heart. Forgiveness is a form of strength that most never reach. When you forgive and move forward, it unsettles him in the best way. He'll remember that you didn't choose anger or revenge. Instead, you chose grace. That grace becomes your legacy in his mind. Every time he meets someone new, a part of him will compare, not because he wants to, but because he can't forget the peace you carried. Love doesn't end when you walk away. It just changes shape. Letting go with love is not a weakness. It's the ultimate form of emotional intelligence. It's the understanding that love was a gift, not a possession. And when you can release that gift with gratitude instead of grief, You don't just close a chapter. You become the lesson he'll never forget. Because nothing is more powerful or more haunting than a woman who loved deeply and still knew how to let go with love. Real strength is walking away with dignity, not bitterness. It's easy to react when you're hurt, to let your pain speak louder than your peace. But the strongest thing you can ever do is leave with your head held high. Dignity is quiet power. It doesn't need to prove anything or seek validation. It's knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to let heartbreak define you. When you choose dignity over drama, you don't just end a relationship, you elevate yourself above it. That kind of strength leaves a permanent impression because very few people can master it. Walking away with dignity means accepting the truth even when it hurts. It means not chasing someone who stopped choosing you. It means realizing that sometimes love isn't enough if it costs you your self-respect. A person who truly values you will never make you feel like you have to beg for their attention, their honesty, or their time. So when you walk away, you're not losing, you're protecting the most important part of yourself, your peace. And that's something that no one can take from you. Bitterness keeps you stuck in the past. It traps you in a loop of anger and blame, while dignity sets you free. When you refuse to be bitter, you stop giving that person power over your emotions. You take back control of your story. You no longer define yourself by what someone did to you, but by how you responded. That's where true strength lives. The moment you can say, I forgive you, but I'm moving on, you've already won. And that calm confidence, that quiet grace becomes unforgettable. A man will always remember the woman who didn't fall apart when everything ended. He'll remember the woman who walked away with softness in her voice and strength in her eyes. He'll remember that you didn't fight to prove your worth. You simply showed it by leaving with grace. Dignity is not about pride, it's about self-respect. It's about understanding that closure doesn't always come from others. It comes from within. When you can look at the past without anger and still wish someone well, that's the moment you know you've grown. Walking away with dignity doesn't erase the love you felt. It honors it by not turning it into something ugly. It keeps your heart clean, your spirit light, and your mind at peace. And that kind of energy is unforgettable. Because in the end, anyone can walk away, but not everyone can do it with dignity. That's what makes you stand out. That's what makes him remember you. The strength you showed, the peace you carried, and the grace you displayed will live in his memory long after the goodbye, because true strength never fades. It only grows brighter with time.